There are moments in life when silence becomes louder than action, when no matter how much you visualize, affirm, or hope, nothing seems to shift. You light the candle, say the mantra, speak the intention, yet the universe stays silent. Why does it seem like manifestation works for everyone else but you? And more importantly, what if the entire way you've been trying to manifest is precisely what's preventing your desires from arriving? According to Dr. Joe Dispenza, you can't create a new future while you're living in your past. And that is exactly where most of us are stuck, trying to create a reality of abundance, love, or purpose while still thinking, feeling, and vibrating from old emotional programs that were wired into us years ago. It's like planting seeds of change in soil that hasn't been cleared of weeds, expecting fruit, but watering confusion. We think we're being spiritual, but underneath there's frustration, impatience, and the hidden belief that maybe we're just not meant for more. Napoleon Hill once wrote that faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches, but the kind of faith he described wasn't a passive hope. It was a vibrational certainty, a full embodiment of what is already felt as true. In contrast, most people are manifesting from lack, not alignment. They're trying to force the universe into responding, without realizing they're broadcasting scarcity in every breath. They're available for every distraction, but unavailable for the stillness required to listen. This video is not just about fixing your manifestation technique. It's about unraveling the illusions you've carried, about who you are, how reality responds to you, and what alignment truly feels like. You'll understand the invisible, energetic contradictions that keep you stuck. You'll begin to recognize the voice of your subconscious working against your conscious desires. And above all, you'll learn what it really means to stop manifesting the wrong way. Because when you stop broadcasting confusion, when you stop needing the outcome to prove your worth, when you become unavailable for the frequency of fear and available only for alignment, something incredible happens. Reality bends. Energy reorganizes. What you've been chasing begins to come toward you, not as reward but as reflection. Let this be the moment you stop trying to manifest and start becoming the manifestation itself. Shall we begin? The invisible block, a mind that won't stop and a frequency that can't flow. There is a peculiar exhaustion that doesn't come from the body, but from the constant spinning of the mind. You lie in bed, not from physical fatigue, but from carrying invisible weights, expectations, doubts, projections, endless to-do lists of how to finally align with the life you've been trying so hard to manifest. The paradox is painful. The more you try to control your reality with your thoughts, the further it seems to drift. This, in its essence, is the silent disease of over-manifestation, a spiritual anxiety dressed in the costume of intention. Much of the spiritual community today confuses stillness with laziness, or surrender with passivity. But what truly blocks the flow of manifestation is not the lack of desire. It is the constant inner chatter that never pauses long enough for the universe to respond. As Carl Jung observed, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Most people don't realize that it is not their conscious desire, but their unconscious frequency that speaks louder to the field of reality. Imagine a river meant to carry your intention. If your thoughts are constantly splashing, stirring, questioning, why hasn't it happened yet? You muddy the waters. The energy cannot move. The signal becomes distorted. You're trying to tune into a specific channel while spinning the dial with trembling hands. It's not that the signal doesn't exist, it's that your system cannot receive it. Manifestation is not a negotiation, it is a synchronization. The frequency of your inner state must match the emotional signature of what you say you want. Yet what drives this mental overactivity? For many, it is fear disguised as productivity. The need to think, plan, and manifest with obsessive discipline masks a deeper insecurity, the fear that if they stop trying, nothing will come. But it is this very fear that leaks into the vibration. You cannot create abundance while thinking from scarcity. You cannot attract love while vibrating with desperation. You cannot call in peace while being addicted to noise. The brain, when conditioned by years of emotional repetition, becomes addicted to specific states: stress, worry, lack. These emotions, though uncomfortable, are familiar. Familiarity gives the illusion of safety, so even as you consciously visualize wealth or freedom, your nervous system may be calibrated to the opposite. This neurological conflict generates incoherence, an energetic mismatch between thought, feeling, and action, and incoherence blocks flow. Neuroscience shows that when the brain is in high beta state, what we experience during anxiety, overthinking, or anticipation, it becomes difficult to access intuition, creativity, and regulation. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for envisioning possibilities, is hijacked by survival circuitry. That's why in moments of panic or frustration, we can't feel the truth of what we've been learning spiritually. The wisdom is still there, but the noise drowns it out. The mind, left unchecked, becomes a tyrant. It drags you back to the known every time you attempt to expand into the unknown. But the solution is not found in silencing the mind through force. It is found in shifting the identity behind the thoughts. Who is the I trying to manifest? Who is the you obsessively seeking change? When we explore these questions with gentleness, we begin to understand that the block is not mental, it is energetic. You are not blocked because you're not trying hard enough. You are blocked because you're trying from a fractured state. This fractured state is a product of modern living, of reward systems based on performance, of self-worth rooted in validation, of urgency mistaken for devotion. We try to earn our way into the arms of the universe as if we are unworthy guests rather than divine participants. The subconscious programming whispers, "I'm not enough yet. I'll be enough when I manifest it." And so we stay stuck in an energetic holding pattern, forever chasing, never arriving. To dissolve this invisible block, a reorientation is required, one that begins not with more affirmations, but with less resistance, not with louder intention, but with softer presence. You must become less available to the noise of your conditioning and more available to the subtle guidance within. This means interrupting the cycle of spiritual performance. It means creating micro-moments of real stillness, where you're not trying to get somewhere, prove something, or activate a result. These moments are sacred. They recalibrate the nervous system. They restore the field of manifestation to its natural rhythm. When your inner frequency slows down, your sensitivity sharpens. You start to feel where you've been out of alignment. You notice the difference between effort and flow, between forcing and allowing. The fog clears and you remember, your natural state is not struggle, it is coherence. This coherence arises when your thoughts, emotions, and actions become congruent, not in a performative way, but in a vibrationally embodied way. You think abundance, feel gratitude, and act from sufficiency, not as a technique, but as a truth. And in that alignment, the invisible becomes magnetic. Because when the mind becomes still, not silent by force, but still by understanding, the frequency finally flows. The river carries your intentions clearly. The field reflects your internal reality, and manifestation ceases to be a task. It becomes a mirror. Desiring is not the same as vibrating, the illusion of wanting without internal state. There's a kind of wanting that feels like hunger, a persistent ache that seems to press against the soul. It masquerades as clarity of intention, as spiritual ambition, but beneath the surface, it carries the heavy frequency of lack. Most people believe that desiring something with enough force or passion will eventually bend the universe into delivering it. But there is a fundamental misunderstanding here, one that silently fractures the entire process of manifestation. Wanting and vibrating are not the same thing. To desire is human. To want expansion, love, safety, abundance, that is natural. But the energetic signature of desire can exist in two drastically different forms. One is rooted in wholeness, in already becoming the vessel of what you seek. The other is born of emptiness, a reaching from absence. The first opens doors. The second closes them before they arrive. Most people live in the latter. They desire from a place of noticing its absence, from chronic emotional rehearsal of what they believe is missing. And so, even as they chant affirmations of love, their frequency radiates loneliness. Even as they visualize wealth, their nervous system pulses with anxiety and contraction. This is not a failure of intention. It is a misalignment between thought and being. Bruce Lipton's work on epigenetics reveals something remarkable. The environment you create within your own biology, your emotional environment, directly influences your reality, far more than the thoughts you think. Thoughts are electrical, feelings are magnetic. Together they shape the field. But when there's a dissonance between what you think you want and what you emotionally live, the field responds not to the louder voice, but to the more consistent one. And consistency lives in the body, in the unspoken narrative of how you respond to silence, to rejection, to stillness. If your system interprets space as a threat, then the absence of results becomes intolerable. You begin to push, you manifest from urgency, you anchor deeper into the very lack you're trying to escape. This is why desire, when not anchored in identity, becomes a repellent force. Think of it this way: desire is the spark, but identity is the fuel. You can light a match, but without the internal embodiment of that flame, the fire never sustains. Saying you want peace while rehearsing stress won't bring peace. Wishing for love while emotionally bracing for abandonment creates a loop of energetic sabotage, and this is where many find themselves trapped, chasing a life they won't allow themselves to feel. This dissonance is not a moral failure, it is a neurological pattern. Your subconscious mind governs over 90% of your behavior and emotional responses. If it holds the belief that you are unworthy, unsafe, or inherently lacking, then it will filter your perception accordingly. It will dismiss signs of alignment. It will sabotage opportunities. It will literally distort your ability to receive what is already approaching you. And so, the work is not to want harder. It is to become congruent with what is wanted. This means shifting the question from, how do I get this, to, who do I need to become to receive this with ease? The energy behind the question matters. One is a vibration of lack. The other is a frequency of readiness. When you embody readiness, the energy changes. You no longer wait for life to deliver before you allow yourself to feel safe. You choose to feel it now, not as a performance, but as a cellular reality. You become less focused on the outcome and more rooted in your internal atmosphere. And from that shift, the external begins to bend, not through force, but through resonance. Neville Goddard spoke of this as the assumption of the wish fulfilled. He didn't mean pretending, he meant dwelling in the state of already being. Not "I hope it comes," but "I am already what I seek." And this is not a mental game, it is a nervous system recalibration. It requires you to sit with discomfort, to breathe through the void, to hold space for desire without collapsing into need. This is not easy. It asks you to decouple your identity from your current reality, to stop measuring your spiritual worth by the timeline of results. It asks you to become intimate with uncertainty, to make peace with not knowing, and to discover that alignment is not a prize at the end of effort. It is a state of return. And so the illusion is this, that wanting alone will bring it. That if you obsess enough, pray hard enough, visualize deeply enough, reality will finally give in. But reality doesn't respond to the desperation of your desire. It mirrors the integrity of your vibration. To shift that, you must live the answer now. You must practice being whole before the relationship, secure before the money, free before the outcome. You must walk like someone who already carries what they used to chase. This is not delusion, it is coherence. When the vibration leads, reality follows. Not instantly, not always dramatically, but undeniably. Because the universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are willing to become. The fatal misuse of visualization. When imagination becomes an escape, instead of creation, there is a sacred beauty in the act of visualization. To close your eyes and see yourself in a future already lived is to awaken the imagination as a tool of transformation. But somewhere along the way, visualization began to be misunderstood. What was once a practice of alignment has become, for many, a form of energetic escapism, a refuge from discomfort, a spiritual fantasy disconnected from the nervous system. And in this disconnection, something essential is lost. Visualization, when done in its purest form, is not a tool to trick the universe. It is a portal to recalibrate your own frequency. But when you use it as a substitute for emotional integration, it quickly becomes a trap. You visualize the dream house, the partner, the freedom, but once the session ends, you return to the same inner landscape: anxiety, resentment, unworthiness. The emotional body contradicts the imagined future, and so the signal is scrambled. The image may be vivid, but the vibration is fragmented. Dr. Joe Dispenza has spoken extensively about this phenomenon. He explains that in order for visualization to influence the quantum field, It must be accompanied by elevated emotions, gratitude, joy, freedom. Without these, the image is merely a thought, and thoughts alone, while powerful, are not magnetic. It is the emotional signature that carries the frequency. Without coherence between heart and image, visualization becomes a mental rehearsal without a somatic imprint. This is why many spend years visualizing without results. They become experts at imagining, but amateurs at embodying. The inner child who fears abandonment, the teenager who never felt seen, the adult who doubts their worth, these parts remain unacknowledged. And so the visualization becomes a mask over an unresolved self, a temporary relief that soon fades into frustration. The person feels betrayed by the process, believing that they did it right, but were ignored by the universe. In truth, they were disconnected from their own emotional truth. To visualize effectively, you must feel what it would be like to become the version of yourself who lives that reality. Not just picture the scene, but inhabit the self who already knows how to hold it. This requires more than imagination. It demands self-awareness. It requires confronting what inside of you doesn't believe it's possible. You must bring light to the inner conflict that whispers, "You're not ready, you're not deserving, it's too late." That confrontation is the true work. Otherwise, the image becomes a drug, a way to numb the pain of the present instead of transforming it. And when the image doesn't manifest, the pain grows louder. Disillusionment sets in. People abandon the practice or spiral into performance, visualizing harder, longer, more often, hoping that more effort will compensate for the emotional void. But the quantum field does not respond to effort. It responds to resonance. Greg Braden speaks of prayer not as a petition, but as a state of being. He describes how ancient traditions prayed as if it had already happened. They didn't ask for rain. They became the feeling of rain. They danced it, smelled the earth after it. This is the forgotten art of embodied visualization. Not asking, not pretending, but remembering. Stepping into the energetic memory of a reality that already exists in the field and anchoring it into your body as truth. To do this, you must slow down, not to escape, but to integrate. Feel the visualization with your entire being. Notice where in your body you tighten when you imagine abundance. What thoughts interrupt the image? What judgments arise? What part of you pulls away? These are sacred clues. They reveal the parts that need healing before manifestation becomes natural, and in attending to them, you become energetically whole. Visualization is not a shortcut. It is not a loophole in the laws of reality. It is a mirror, a compass, and a recalibration. It shows you who you believe yourself to be. It offers you the opportunity to become intimate with your resistance. And when practiced with honesty, it can be one of the most powerful tools of transformation, not because it changes the future, but because it changes your relationship with it. There is nothing wrong with imagining your dream life. But if you return from that vision more desperate than before, more anxious, more hopeless, then something in your approach must be re-examined. Visualization should elevate, not deplete. It should remind you of what is already possible, not highlight what is currently missing. The key is integration. Visualize with the body, not just the mind. With breath, not just image. Let the practice become less about control and more about becoming a vibrational match. Let it dissolve performance and deepen presence. When you stop using visualization to escape and start using it to embody, the entire field responds. Because the universe listens not to your imagination alone, but to the frequency you become when no one is watching. The silent key. How non-effort, surrender, and inner space activate manifestation. There is a profound paradox at the heart of manifestation. The most powerful action often comes from what appears to be non-action. In a world obsessed with hustle, production, and visible progress, the idea that surrender and spaciousness can unlock your deepest desires feels counterintuitive. Yet this is exactly where the invisible currents of creation flow most freely, within the quiet realm of non-effort. To grasp this requires a radical shift in perception. Manifestation is not about pushing harder against resistance. It is about creating a field so receptive and coherent that the energy of what you desire can naturally unfold. This is not passivity. It is a dynamic stillness, an active allowing, a presence that says to the universe, "I am ready and I am not afraid to receive." From a neuroscientific perspective, This state corresponds to the parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest mode. When you live chronically in fight or flight, your body releases stress hormones that tighten energy and restrict flow. The mind becomes reactive, the heart contracts, and your field contracts with it. In contrast, surrender activates relaxation, opens the vagus nerve pathways, and invites flow. It allows your brain waves to shift from high beta to alpha and theta, states associated with creativity, intuition, and regeneration. This energetic environment is fertile ground for manifestation. It is the space where quantum possibilities converge. Gregg Braden calls this the coherent heart state, where heart and mind synchronize, producing a magnetic field powerful enough to influence reality itself. But coherence cannot be forced. It emerges naturally from inner stillness and trust. Surrender is often misunderstood as giving up or resigning to fate, but true surrender is not defeat. It is a conscious release of the illusion of control. It is acknowledging that while you can influence your reality, you do not have to wrestle it into submission. When you stop gripping tightly at outcomes and instead soften your energy, you shift from resistance to receptivity. This is the energetic quality missing in many who struggle to manifest despite their best efforts. They push with clenched fists, driven by fear of loss or impatience. They become unavailable to the subtle signals guiding them, unable to discern the gentle yes or no whispered by the universe. Instead, they drown those signals with noise, planning, forcing, doubting. But manifestation is less about doing and more about being. It asks you to cultivate inner space, a sacred pause where you hold your vision lightly yet firmly, without desperation or doubt. In this space, the field reorganizes. Possibilities arise, synchronicities increase, doors open with grace rather than force. This space is not empty. It is pregnant with potential. Like the silence before a symphony begins, it carries the tension and promise of creation. When you learn to dwell here, you activate a power beyond intellect or willpower. You become a co-creator, dancing with the rhythms of the universe rather than battling against them. From a psychological angle, surrender also heals the fragmented self. It stops the cycle of pushing and punishing. It invites compassion and acceptance, recognizing that some aspects of your journey unfold beyond conscious control. This humility does not weaken you. It strengthens you by freeing energy trapped in resistance, allowing it to flow toward alignment. The great mystics understood this intuitively. Neville Goddard taught that imagination and faith work best when accompanied by a relaxed confidence, a knowing without strain. Joe Dispenza describes how meditation and breathwork cultivate this receptive state, allowing new neural pathways to form. These practices cultivate coherence not by effort, but by spaciousness. To embody this principle in daily life means learning to observe without attachment, to feel desire without clenching, to act without forcing, to trust without rushing. It means embracing the rhythm of life, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, and holding your vision steady through it all. In the silence of surrender, manifestation begins to breathe. It shifts from a project to a presence, from a goal to a natural unfolding. And when this happens, you realize that the power was never in pushing harder, but in allowing deeper. The universe does not respond to your struggle. It responds to your openness. It does not reward desperation. It aligns with grace. When you stop trying to control and start inviting presence, your life no longer depends on frantic effort. Instead, it blossoms from the fertile ground of inner peace. Let me know when you are ready to proceed with the conclusion. Understanding the true nature of manifestation is to step beyond the illusion of control and into the realm of profound alignment. It is not about pushing harder or forcing outcomes. It is about cultivating coherence within yourself, between your thoughts, emotions, and actions. As Joe Dispenza reminds us, your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. But more than what you do, it is the energy with which you do it that shapes your reality. The struggle to manifest often arises from an unconscious dissonance, a mind racing against itself, a heart wrestling with doubt, and a body holding tension. When you recognize this invisible block, you can gently release it through presence, spaciousness, and surrender. Manifestation becomes effortless when you embody the state of what you seek before it appears externally. Desire alone is not enough. You must vibrate with the reality you want to live, fully integrated in body and soul. Visualization without emotional truth is a hollow image. Action without alignment is resistance. The key lies in creating inner space, trusting the natural timing of the universe, and moving with the flow instead of against it. True transformation happens not when you chase your dreams, but when you become the energy of those dreams. The universe responds to your vibration more than your words or plans. When you stop trying to force outcomes and start aligning deeply with your own frequency, manifestation moves from an effortful task to an elegant dance. The moment you stop manifesting the wrong way is the moment everything begins to change. What would it mean for your life if you stopped chasing and started becoming? How would your reality shift if you truly embodied your desires now? If you're ready to step into this new way of being, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more deep insights that transform your manifestation journey. Don't forget to click on the next video appearing on your screen. It's designed to take you even further on this path of alignment and abundance. Your transformation is unfolding right here, right now. Stay with us.